Welcome to my new talk show that I'm hosting called Backstage Banter.
I love it.
And you're my first guest. So I just want this to be like as casual as possible. You know, we're about to run away to Virginia for Fat Ham, your show. And so like
Yes.
every week I would just love to like have a conversation with a different member of this cast and team just to like get a fuller picture of the show. And also like play some games. So as you know, like I've already delivered some goodies for you. And we will get into that later. But to start, I would just love to like ask you, um, like how you're doing. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I love snow. Love, love, love snow. Like it might be a slightly unhealthy love of snow. And I woke up this morning where it's like a new sort of like inch of snow over everything. And I just always find that so magical. So I started the day with a great deal of like excitement and energy because it instantly sort of makes me giddy.
Hmm.
Um, and then I don't know, I had meetings and I did a little bit of writing and I've been rewatching the TV show Living Single.
Me
Um,
too. Except I'm
it's
watching it for the
so
first
good.
time. Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm of the age where I watched it while it aired. So it was like a thing that my family we like sat around and watched the show and recorded um episodes of it. And so it's like really special to me, but I hadn't watched it in like years. And I'm watching it now and I'm like seeing so many things that are sort of like, oh, that's where I got that from.
Mm.
Oh, my sensibility about that is like really connected to this episode and this moment that I remember laughing really way too hard at, and everybody in my family was like, "When is it's not that funny." Um, yeah, so that I've been doing a bit of that while I'm like working or just like, don't have anything to do. Like sometimes when I'm just like working on grades or working on something else, I'll just like pop it on and it's been really great.
See,
What
I
about
think
you?
as
How's your day been?
well, my day has been also living in the snow. Like I woke up early this morning to go buy some groceries for your snack for today. And it was an adventure of where did I park last night. So it all worked out. But also, I feel like since it's my first time watching Living Single, it feels like more of an inspirational show to me. Because like
Mm,
I'm loving like the casual blackness of '90s sitcoms. So to just see like black women just existing and like being so powerful is always inspiring every day I watch it.
yeah. And that the run of that show, and there's a few other shows I think that sit in this category, and a little bit after this show, that's sort of the zenith for
Mm.
a while. Like it doesn't get any, it was never better than that before, and it doesn't get better than that for a while after. Like I feel like we're in a moment now where like not so much in sitcoms, but like black TV is in a bit of a I don't know, I like the word renaissance is weird because it sort of like invokes this idea that it's been like buried and then like rediscovered, but it's like we've been watching these shows all along.
Hmm.
They just haven't been like mainstreamed in the same way. But like I watched all of the game, I watched all of the Parkers,
Hmm.
these shows that like came on after this moment or sort of like concurrent with this moment. So
Yeah, I have this theory that like we're going to get a lot more black TV soon because just like of where we are, I feel like people want to see more black things and I feel like there's already been a wave of like new black TV creators and filmmakers that have already just like been crawling their way up there. So when the doors
yeah,
of the world open up, I'm excited to see what comes out.
same. I love TV so much.
But we're talking about a play.
Yes.
So I would love to like my first question for you is just like why Hamlet and like why Shakespeare today? Like what about that show made you want to adapt it?
So it's there's a long story in terms of me and Shakespeare. that I'll give you sort of the Cliff Notes version of it. So when I was in grad school, in my speech class, which was largely working with Shakespeare, one of the things that I kept sort of getting, I'm going to use the word notes. That's the TV friendly version. Notes on was my accent, that I had sort of I had a slow tongue because I'm, I guess from the South. But like I don't one, I've never really thought of myself as someone who had a really strong accent. There are words that are difficult for me, like uh ten.
Hmm.
But my whole life, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. I just didn't think of that as a major stumbling block, but it apparently was violently offensive. So I had a really fraught relationship with Shakespeare and sort of made a kind of promise to myself that I was like, in my professional career as an actor, I'm not going to do it. I just and I've and professionally, I've done one. I
Hmm.
did Romeo and Juliet at the Arden. That is the single lone Shakespeare that I've ever done in my professional career. It was great because I got to work with Matt Pfeiffer, who's a director I love. But beyond that, could could take it or leave it. And so that's a thing that I'm working through in like writing about and writing riffing on Shakespeare, sort of like trying to bring it closer to me. But then the other thing is Hamlet as a character um, is kind of fascinating to me because he's acting inside of the play, and so
Hmm.
that's interesting to me. Um, every time I read that play, something that has nothing to do with how people talk about Hamlet shows up for me. So like. Um, I remember one time reading it and thinking, wow, this is really a play about a son being really pissed at his mom, and it doesn't go well. Now, I don't think many people talk about it that way, but that's that in many ways, if she just hadn't have married Claudius, um, for example, that would have changed how he reacted to so many things. Or um, another thing that comes up for me is like we talk about Fortinbras and Norway.
Hmm.
And it didn't dawn on me that like the reason why Fortinbras is headed in their direction, the reason why Norway is upset with Denmark, is because Hamlet's dad did something dirty thing to Norway back in the day, and they're like, this is about vengeance. So like this political anxiety that runs underneath the play is all about these like cycles of violence, and then this ghost comes to Hamlet, and it's like you have to avenge me. So there's this relationship to vengeance and the responsibility of a son to the legacy of a father, which I'm like, oh, I can identify with that. Like that's like a thing that I hate this term universal, so I'm not going to use it. Okay, I've used it. But like that's a thing that anyone can sort of like latch into and find a space to think about. And so I wanted to talk about those things, those types of things. I want to talk about mothers and sons. I want to talk about cycles of violence and like, the sins of the father and like choosing to say no to those cycles. Like the person who breaks the cycle of abuse in a family, that's a that's like such major lifting, and it's so painful and it's so difficult. And I'm in a generation of people in many cases that we're the generation that is deciding to do that. Like,
Hmm.
people um, I guess I would be considered a millennial, maybe a geriatric millennial. I don't know. I was born in '81, but like between Generation X and my generation, there's this real reckoning with like I'm not going to raise my kids the way my parents raised me. Um, and so I wanted to do that. And then, as always, I want to be writing about Black people as much as I can, and as in ways that are both so deeply recognizable to Black people, but also like surprising and effervescent. Like, it's really important to me that um, even in the anxiety and the pain of any given situation, that I am writing people who live, that I'm writing people who um are abundant with like life and possibility. So that's the other objective. And then like, I was like, well, what if I just wrote a version of Hamlet that I think would be fun and I would want to watch. You know, Toni Morrison says, write the book you want to read.
Mm.
Write the book that you want to, experience. And I don't know, whenever I read this play when I'm working on it, I'm like, yeah, I want to see this. So it's the constellation of all of those things, and maybe a touch of my own hubris of picking the most enigmatic of Shakespeare's plays, maybe to 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 approach in this way. So,
Well, then also as a professor yourself, like how do you feel knowing that like this adaptation lives next to Shakespeare in classrooms? Like what does that
mm.
thought do for you?
I mean, that's I could only hope that it's going to live next to Shakespeare. Um, I, I don't actually know that it will, and um, I'm also one of these people that's sort of like Shakespeare probably wrote if you look at the whole thing, maybe six or seven like really good plays, and then the rest of them are
Hmm. Hmm.
like the first plays feel like first plays. The late plays feel like, "Oh, okay, oh, all right, you know, and throughout the whole career, there's like these moments of like, well, look at this thing that's like kind of astonishing.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't treat them the way that I do not have an academic relationship to Shakespeare, and it's because I have a fraught relationship with Shakespeare from academia. So I don't think of him that way. I think about him in much the same way that I think about, when I read Tennyson for the first time, where I'm like, this is really beautiful. It's wildly outside of my experience. I don't know that I necessarily need this to live. Like, I think we're taught that we need it to understand some things about humanity. And I don't know that I agree with that necessarily. So I hope that the play is disrupting the notion of Shakespeare in some ways, that we sort of rarefy um, him as like the thing that you're supposed to strive for, the thing that you're supposed to um it's this aspirational pinnacle of performance, of directing, whatever it is you're doing with the play. If you've done a production of Hamlet, people even go so far as people who've played Hamlet say like his Hamlet. There's this weird sort of exclusivity to it that makes one people feel like they can't, unless they're these brilliant actors, they can't do it. And that's not even like the genius of Shakespeare. The genius of Shakespeare is that it's supposed to be written in such a way that we can meet it with a lot of grace and a lot of ease. And so I think we make it more difficult. We make it messy. We make it um, hard to watch and understand. I think if we played with it more, if we treated it the way the Elizabethan theater treated theater, which is with a lot less reverence, um, I think we would have a much more exciting and vibrant relationship to all of the plays. And I mean, on some level, I have a little bit of an internal experiment of like, I want to examine a few Shakespeare characters through my career as a playwright. One is Hamlet, one is Othello, one is Cleopatra, and the other is Falstaff. And I want to like, and if I have it in me to write like an adaptation of oh God, what is it? Twelfth Night. I would love to like do something that's about twins and what that means. Um, Twins run in my family. I imagine if I had biological children, I probably would have twins. So there are many twins in my family, and I'm always sort of like interested in what that means and how deep those relationships are. I'm very close to my sisters, and it feels that way to me sometimes. So um, that's an experiment of mine, but I don't know that I'm actually going to do those things. I would love to do those things, but I don't know that I will.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see what you come up with if you do. I'm curious. So then, like, what was your writing process for this show then?
I read the play a bunch. I talked to people about my ideas, people who study Shakespeare, and I said, "What do you think? This is what I'm thinking. What do you think?" And they all were like, "That sounds fine. Just do it." Like it's, they were very excited by the idea of like playing with it because it's not a play that of the plays of his that have been adapted or transformed in some way. It's not at the top of the list. It's not nowhere near as sort of reproduced as the Scottish play or Romeo and Juliet. I mean, there are these plays where you can like point to TV show to movie to play after play after play that are just basically riffs on those stories. And of course, Shakespeare is the king of riffing off of stories that already exist. So it's actually like very much in a beautiful conversation with him to adapt him. Um, oh God, I lost track of the question. Oh, what the process was. And then and then I watched a few films of like stage productions and also movies to just sort of see you know, what people valued in the storytelling. So like there's this Hamlet that Ethan Hawke was in. I think Julia Stiles is in it. I think I want to say um, Bill Murray is Polonius. I think Bill Murray is Polonius in it.
Y- yeah.
And of course, there's the Kenneth Branagh and Kate Winslet. So I watched a few Shakespeare renderings. Um, and like in that, so that Ethan Hawke one, it's so much of it is about surveillance and like what you say and what how you appear and what you're thinking, like the disconnect between those things. It's super psychological. And I was like, what? I don't want to do that. I want to write something that's funny. Um, and then I just started writing it. I also had this thought of like, I wanted Hamlet to not be in line with these sort of svelte, attractive, blonde, or,
Mm-hmm.
uh, white guys. I wanted him to be black and queer and um, a soft way about him. I didn't want him to be sort of like brutish anyway. I wanted him to be very smart. I wanted him to be as clever as Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, and I didn't want him to be like some athletic, thin slip of a thing. Like I'm just not particularly curious with that. I mean, that's never been me. Um, and I wanted to write a version of Hamlet that had a little bit more of that play in it. So, um, and then I just like started listening to my family because I knew I wanted to set it in North Carolina and things that they talked about and what things that they had great passion about that I was like, wow, you okay, you're really upset about this thing. I can't understand why. And I forget that like I've been living in Philadelphia for almost 20 years now. Um, and um, I don't know, it was nice to revisit those people who um, made me who I am, like made me the way I think, the way I dress, um, the way I talk, and a combination of doing all of those things and just like listening to people from the South. Um, just trying to catch them of that. Like, Shakespeare has the I am, which is supposedly this like that's the pattern of speech, and it's like, well, sure, okay,
Hmm.
fine. If you come from a culture that doesn't have a lot of polyrhythm, that's fine. You can say that. That's fine. I wanted to write something that was a little bit more dynamic in the way that people spoke to each other, the color of the language. Um, the early draft was very, very profane. It has since been less de-profaned a lot. Um, and early drafts of my plays tend to be very F-bomb heavy. Um, there's a word that has a lot of emotion in it. It's like, it's a good word. A lot of consonants. Uh, and so I wrote a draft pretty quickly because I didn't have to think about story because the story is there. But there was a point where there was more of a play within a play, like they were gonna come out at the end. I don't know if you've seen this draft where there's a whole talk back at the end
No, no, I don't know this one.
where all of the actors become so the actors playing the characters in the play in real life are playing like Juicy and Tidra, and then at the end of the play, blackout, lights come up, they take a bow, people bring out folding chairs, and they become these new characters who are actors in the play. And then we have this like moment of like having a real discussion about performing blackness and black trauma and black death on stage. It's a typical um it's a thing I'm guilty of as a writer where I'm like, oh, here's this fabulous comedy that you just watched and had a great time. And then in the last like 15 minutes, it's like, so here is actually the thing that we need to grapple with when we're thinking about this world and we're thinking about this play. And I took it out. Hmm.
I'm curious why, because like in the drafts that I have seen, there are like larger chunks of things that leave. So like if this talk back left, and then like we had the pigs at one point that left.
Yeah, the
Like
pig.
what is it about this version of the play that feels the most right to what you want to say?
Mhm. I think because we just live with these people and the consequences of their actions, and so I don't let the audience off the hook with fantasy. Um, everything, and I love fantasy. I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with that. I love fantasy. I use it a lot. Um, but I wanted people to just believe that Tidra would be sort of perplexed by her son, beloved. You
Mm,
know, I wanted people to see that. I don't want to give away what happens at the end, but like, you know, mothers sort of accepting where their children are. Like that was important to me because I think the narrative is often that Black people, when they have gay children or they have queer children or have children who are different in any sort of way, they just instantly throw them out. And that has very rarely been my experience of people that I know, where they just like disown their kids.
hmm.
Um, More often than not, they just sort of keep them really close and they like do this, like, the world is mean, the world is terrible. You're Black and you have this other thing. Just don't go anywhere, stay here. And I've seen that more than I've seen people just sort of saying, I'm never speaking to you or again, you're not my son, you're dead to me. And I think it's sort of perpetuate this notion, this idea that Black people are somehow more homophobic than white people are, which is just not true. And so that was really important for me to say. And I felt like if I put too much sort of dazzly, look at me, I'm being, cute. I also feel like the pigs are a casualty of the pandemic, to be completely honest. I was like, I don't have time to be cute with these people. Like,
That's fair.
I don't have time to be like adorable. I don't want to be adorable. Um I want to be real. I want to be thoughtful. I want to be funny, but I don't need to be cute. Cuteness is not something that I necessarily need to value. I'm kind of it's weird because like I have a great appreciation for things that come into my world that are cute, and I go, oh. I love that. But in this world, I needed them to do the work and not me sort of like with puppet strings, um, disrupting that. I just wanted them to get to the end of the play and say like, well, what do we want to do? What are we gonna do?
Hmm.
Um, and then do that, and then not have to explain it. I think another thing that I am guilty of sometimes as a writer is explaining blackness to people
Hmm.
that are not black. And another sort of like gift of this moment has been like, "Mm, I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't know the benefit of doing that. Um, because there's a long literary tradition of black writers writing sort of past black people to the white person on behind you. Like, you can sense that they're not talking directly to you as a reader. They're talking to this person so that they can understand because that's what was necessary. Um, and I'm grateful that they've done that because now I can be in a position where I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So that's why the talk back left. And then the pigs, I was just like, it's the cute thing. Like, stop being cute. But I was talking to Tasha, who she
Oh,
plays Opal in the play. She was like, I have to say, I miss the pig. So who knows?
the pigs have always
Yeah,
been a
they're
giant question
probably
mark
gone.
for me. So to see
Yeah.
them go, I'm like, I understand, and at the same time, it was fun, you know.
Yes.
We can have more fun in the show throughout the piece, though. So like, I'm not really losing
Yes.
anything. Um,
Yeah.
so another thing I noticed in your writing is like this acknowledgement that there is no fourth wall. That like we are all
Oh yeah.
audience and actors and like sure we're doing a play but like I'm not going to pretend like we're not sitting in the same room. So I'm curious like in this show, since we are doing it like in a one take in a like a virtual capturing, like how does that change the relationship that you've kind of written in for the audience and the actors to build together?
I think that relationship is the same through the screen. I mean, it's obviously not the same because we're not breathing the same air, and we're not. There's several senses that we're not sharing. So um, that's the thing that's just we have to grapple with. But I do think we live in a oh, that's too grand a way of saying that, so I'm not going to say it that way. Um, this is post Fleabag, so the relationship to the audience through the lens of the camera is is really wonderful. So that it what it does is it actually pulls you closer because then suddenly you're like delighting in something, and then someone looks at you and winks,
Mm-hmm.
and that just feels so good, you know. Whereas in the theater, like live, that can there's no safety in that um exchange because if I can wink at you, I could also jump off the stage and you know throw my shoe at you.
Yeah.
But if there's a screen there and I look directly at the camera and I go, so what did you think of that? Hmm. Like, it changes how um we have to have an opinion then,
Mm.
right? It takes the screen, and then suddenly I have to have an opinion about what that means and the question that's been posed to me or the thought project that's been sort of set in front of me. I have to have an opinion about that, and that's the thing that I think starts to get people to like thinking and talking. And um, I it also like the flip side of that is it changes the relationship to what you're viewing because then now you're once the once an actor looks at you and talks directly to you, you're no longer an audience member, you're a voyeur,
Mm.
and that relationship to story is just really 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 different. um I notice that when I'm watching like a scripted television show that has like high drama, I have one relationship to that. And then when I'm watching The Real Housewives of Potomac, which I watch, um, it's great TV. Um, um, I have a real sort of like personal, um, not relationship, but like personal stakes and like what is happening to Monique Samuels and why is this happening this way? And I'm like making the case for her bad behavior, or like, it turns into a different thing. Um, because I know that they're out there somewhere still living their lives as those people.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think that there's a little bit of a trick in like making the audience feel like I'm confiding in you. Come closer. That feels good. It's a sexy feeling, I think. It's not even like it's not an intellectual feeling. I'm seen, you know, to be in to be seen is is both terrifying and also chef's kiss when someone sees you. It's like,
Hmm.
ah, I like that. I like that feeling. So that's my hope. I have no idea if that if that actually happens. That's my hope.
Great. I mean, I always feel like it does, but we'll
Good.
find out. Uh, my final question for you is: what are you most excited about seeing in this production of Fat Ham?
Oh man. Okay. Um, there's a scene that is my version of um, what I've done in the play is that I've conflated Ophelia's sort of mad scene with um, Gertrude and Hamlet after Hamlet's killed Polonius. I've sort of like conflated those two scenes into one event, with Hamlet playing essentially both Ophelia and Hamlet in these scenarios, and both with Gertrude. And I'm really excited to see these two actors do this because I think that they're Kim Fairbanks and Brenna Malone together playing that scene. I think is going to be kind of heartbreaking in the best way that you want to
Hmm.
um, have that experience. Um, so I'm really excited about that. It's the scene that I've never heard out loud because I wrote it post workshop, so I've never actually heard that scene out loud. And I just kind of love it. Um, the end. There's a thing that happens at the end. Very excited about what that's going to be. Won't say what it is because you gotta watch it. But I'm excited about that. And then Tio has this monologue that I'm still trying to like figure out exactly how it works and what it's going to be. But it's about self-actualization through video games, and I'm again, I think it's also connected to the performer. Like Anthony, Anthony has like boundless generative actor imagination. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of spectacular to watch him work with text because he's someone who makes text, and like he has got a real relationship to language. Um, and I'm just really excited to see what he does with it. Uh, um, things. There's also, I mean, like just the utter nonsense that I've put in this play that people are letting me get away with, like karaoke and things like that, where I'm like, maybe no one will complain about this.
No.
So I mean, I'm excited about the moments that sort of like lift up from like the mundane. Um, because it's a pretty, I mean, it's a special day because it's a wedding, but it's pretty grounded in terms of like the action of the play and what happened. So those three things, I'm like, I can't wait to see what that looks like, what that feels like, how it all comes together. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to like jump into this process and start. And I'm so glad to like have this information and like share it with so many folks, so that way they can also like feel like they have this little inside scoop to like enjoy and comfort the show with. Um, Now let's get to my game, because I have a game that I'm really excited to play with you. Okay, so
Okay.
I think I'm gonna call this Porking Around. I've been playing with a couple of different titles, but Porking Around feels good. It's a quick little trivia game here. I have three questions for you, and hopefully they get harder each level. And for each question that
Okay.
you answer right, you get to take a bite of my homemade mac and cheese, bacon mac and cheese that I've made you. And it
That's
is.
bacon? I wasn't sure if that was bacon or not.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's porking around. We got pork for
I
you.
can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
But then on the flip side, if you get the question wrong, then you have a sandwich of peanut butter and bacon with brown bourbon sugar rub and hot honey sauce. So, are you ready?
I am. All right. I'm excited. Okay, here we go.
Great. So, question one. What is the first song that Rev sings at the top of Fat Ham?
Square biz.
So there you go. You go ahead and take your first bite of mac and cheese. That's your easy question. And I get to do this
Oh
with
my
you.
God.
We all in this together.
Oh my God. This is so good.
Thank you.
I'll take a look. Okay.
That's okay.
It's so good.
And okay, question two. In Hamlet, who says the line, to thine own self be true?
Polonius.
That is correct. More mac and cheese.
Yay. This is so good.
I'm glad. I try every time I make mac and cheese, I try like a new recipe, just like different seasonings and flavors and
Mm,
cheeses. So I'm glad you got this iteration of it.
hmm
And our final question. So you went to Morehouse for your undergrad. So in 2013, who gave the graduation commencement speech?
Was it Barack Obama? Was that
Yes,
Barack
it
Obama?
was. So congratulations, you have won Working Around. You just get to eat more mac and cheese.
I'm gonna eat the sandwich too.
You should try it. Let me know what it tastes like. And that's it. That is our whole show, our
Awesome.
whole interview. Do you have like any last minute final thoughts, like 2 cents that you just want to throw out into the ether, let the whole world sit and marinate on it because the internet doesn't disappear?
No, just like I mean, I hope it's like a bright spot for people as we like slowly make this march back to the theaters, that this is like a beautiful stop on the way back to like what we really do, which is bring people together and tell stories in real time and space together. Um, and then um, I hope somebody else is inspired to like pick one of the many plays that are from the canon and just like blow it up. I love every time I see that. Whether it's Ruined and Lynn Nottage is like sort of like grappling with Mother Courage, or there's so many, um, or like Terrell Alvin McCraney and like Lorca with in the red and brown water. Like, um, I love anytime someone takes the canon and says, I need to see myself in this because the story is important, um, and they truly make it their own. So I hope this inspires somebody to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with me, James.
Of course, anytime.